Oh shucks, what were we talking about? I didn't even revise. Let me just listen to a little bit पीछे then I'll remember.
व्यवहार शिक्षा केवल आपका प्रवृत्ति हो जाए.
Right, we were talking about the education system. Wow, it seems like really long ago. Last week we were talking about how he is hoping in this attempt, because there is a possibility for people to understand if they are given the right proposal. He is using that possibility in this very opportunity in sharing all this, hoping that the listeners then become inclined towards exploring understanding and resolution and living with humane conduct and humanizing education. Because the education up till now has not been able to do that. It has been profit oriented and technical skills oriented up till now. But that is not capable of of inculcating humane conduct in its students. So we need behavioral education. And so he's hoping with listening to this proposal, we become inclined towards working for humane education in our education system.
Right. He also put light on what they're currently trying to do with the institution, but at the same time keep working on the village front, irrespective of if institution support is there.
Right, yes. Right now there is government support when he's speaking and institutional support, but even if there weren't, he would still continue working. At least, you can, as one person, you can work at a level of village at least minimum, if not more, even without the support of institutions. So for him, that is the only work to be done now, to work for humane education so that other people can also reach the same kind of state he is in.
Okay. In this video, is he gonna say of how the work is, or already we have covered a little bit on that?
We've already covered that several videos ago. I can tell you kaunsa wala. I'll have to look it up with the number of that video and I'll share that with you.
कि वो आपका प्रवृत्ति हो जाए, व्यवहार शिक्षा की ओर आपका प्रवृत्ति हो जाए और प्रमाण शिक्षा की ओर आपका प्रवृत्ति हो जाए. प्रमाण का आधार मनुष्य होना आप स्वीकार लें.
So that you may become develop the tendency towards behavioral education, so that you may develop the tendency towards an education for evidence, and so that you may accept that it is the human being that is the basis of evidence, not equipment, not tools, machines.
यह संभावना है, यह कोई असंभव नहीं है. यह संभावना के आधार पर आपके साथ अनुनय विनय है. इसको आप एक बार विचार तो कर ही सकते हैं. इस ढंग से हम व्यापार शिक्षा से, यांत्रिक शिक्षा से.
So this is a possibility. It is a real possibility on the basis of which I can do this sort of request. I can put this request towards you. And this request to move away from business education towards.
इस ढंग से हम व्यापार शिक्षा से, यांत्रिक शिक्षा से हम सामाजिक होना तो बनेगा नहीं. यांत्रिक शिक्षा से हम सामाजिक होना तो बनेगा नहीं.
So in this way, through business education and through technical education, we cannot become sociable. That will not lead to us becoming sociable.
नहीं. इससे जो बाकी मानव के साथ जो अत्याचार अनाचार जो कुछ भी हो ना हो, किंतु धरती के साथ तो अनाचार अत्याचार अवश्यम भावी है.
And through this, whatever misdeeds or exploitation it may cause to human beings, but it does certainly lead to misdeeds and exploitation of the planet.
तो इसी विधि से यांत्रिक शिक्षा, व्यापार शिक्षा वशी ये धरती बर्बाद हुई है.
So it is through this method itself that through this method of mechanical education, of business education, that our planet has been destroyed.
ये बात घोषणात्मक है, इसमें कोई संदेह नहीं है. मुझको तो संदेह नहीं है. संदेह किसी को होगा तो वे अपना संदेह को व्यक्त भी कर सकते हैं।
So this point is something that can be declared clearly. There is no doubt about this. At least there is no doubt in me regarding this. And if someone does have any doubt, then what did he say?
किसी को होगा तो वे अपना संदेह को व्यक्त भी कर सकते हैं।
Then if someone has any doubts about this, then they can also share those doubts.
उसका समाधान हम प्रस्तुत करेंगे।
This is very strange. Sorry. And so you can present your doubts also if you have any doubts on this point, and I will present the resolution to those doubts as well.
विधि से हम व्यापार शिक्षा और यांत्रिक शिक्षा की समीक्षा हम पाते हैं। अब
In this way, we find the critique of mechanical education and business education.
इसके विकल्प में क्या चाहिए? व्यवहार शिक्षा चाहिए, मानवीय शिक्षा चाहिए, ठीक है, और प्रामाणिक शिक्षा चाहिए, समाधान पूर्ण शिक्षा चाहिए। और
So what do we need as an alternative to that? We need behavioral education, humane education, education based in evidence.
ठीक है, और प्रामाणिक शिक्षा चाहिए, समाधान पूर्ण शिक्षा चाहिए, और समर्थ होने की विधि संपन्न शिक्षा चाहिए।
An education with comprehensive resolution within it and the way towards prosperity.
ये शिक्षा का पूरा लंबाई चौड़ाई बनती है।
This becomes the complete length and breadth of education.
ऐसा शिक्षा के लिए क्या किया जाए? वो मानवीयतापूर्ण आचरण को मध्य में रखा जाए। मानवीयतापूर्ण आचरण को संरक्षित कर रखने के लिए मनुष्य को माने समझदार बनाने के लिए संपूर्ण माने वांग्मय को तैयार किया जाए।
So what should we do to ensure such an education? For that, we need to place humane conduct at its center. And in order to place humane conduct at its center, we need to work towards help everyone becoming knowledgeable.
मानवीयतापूर्ण आचरण को संरक्षित कर रखने के लिए मनुष्य को माने समझदार बनाने के लिए संपूर्ण माने वांग्मय को तैयार किया।
So in order to place this at the center, humane conduct, that means to protect the humane conduct, we need to make all human beings knowledgeable. I have prepared this entirety of the literature.
और पाठ्यक्रम को तैयार किया जाए और स्कूल कॉलेजों में इसको प्रयोग किया जाए, कम से कम एक जगह में प्रयोग किया जाए।
And we have prepared the curriculum, and now that it should be tried out in schools and colleges. At least it should be tried out in one place at least.
दो जगह में प्रयोग किया जाए और यदि वो कारगर होता है सब जगह में प्रयोग कर लिया जाए।
So it should be tried out in at least 1 or 2 places, and if that works out, then it can be tried out in all places.
इस ढंग से जांच करके हर कदम आगे रखा जाए।
In this way, we should place each foot forward based on testing. In this way, we should test things out and then put the next foot forward.
तो ये भी मनुष्य में हमने देखा है कि जितने भी आवेश और उत्तेजनात्मक कर्म है वो तत्काल कर देता है। उसके लिए देर दार को अगौरता नहीं है। उसके लिए देर दार को अगौरता नहीं है।
So this is another thing that we have observed, that all the excited or agitated actions that are there, human beings commit them immediately.
उसके लिए देर दार को अगौरता नहीं है।
What did he say in this? I couldn't make out. देर दार को अगौरता नहीं।
जहां कहीं भी समाधान, विवेक और प्रयोजनशील कार्य है उसको 200 बार सोचता है।
So I didn't quite catch that, but he's saying, so this is something we have observed in human beings. Whenever there is any action full of excitement or agitation, we commit it immediately, right then and there. We don't think about it. Well, I think that's what he's saying. I couldn't really make it out, but I think that's what he's saying. We don't think and deliberate on it. But whenever there is some action that requires resolution and deliberation, then for that we end up we think about it and question it 200 times.
समाधान, विवेक और प्रयोजनशील कार्य है उसको 200 बार सोचता है।
For any such activities of resolution, deliberation, discretion or purpose, we think about it hundreds of times. And then we question it hundreds of times.
1000 बार सोचता है तब कर पाता है।
Thousands of times. And then we are able to do it.
ये मानव प्रवृत्ति में इसको देखा गया है। ये चीज बाल्यावस्था में जो सहयोगी प्रवृत्ति रहती है बच्चों में, ऐसा नहीं होता है।
This is something we've observed as a human tendency. And this thing is something that is not present in childhood. We don't observe this among children.
बच्चों में सहयोगी प्रवृत्ति तुरंत फुर्त होता है। शनै शनै जैसा जैसा आदमी
In children, this tendency to be helpful is immediate. It is only gradually as the child grows older.
प्रौढ़ होता है, वो सहयोगी प्रवृत्ति के प्रति, स्वयं की सहयोगी प्रवृत्ति के प्रति शंका उत्पन्न होती जाती है। वो माने उसकी प्राथमिकता नीचे आती जाती।
As the child grows older and reaches maturity, that this tendency for helpfulness slowly diminishes, that a doubt emerges regarding one's own tendency to be helpful, and its priority reduces for us.
फलस्वरूप देर हो जाती है।
And consequently, it gets pushed back, or it becomes late.
देर होते तक
It becomes delayed.
नीचे आती जाती है, फलस्वरूप देर हो जाती है। देर होते तक जो समीचीन परिस्थिति थी वो बदल जाती है। बदल जाने के बाद और भी शंका होने लगता है।
And because it gets delayed, whatever conducive situation there was to be helpful in, that changes. And because that situation has changed, that leads to even further doubt.
इस ढंग से सही बात हो ही नहीं सकता, इस जगह में आके बैठा है आदमी जात।
And in this way, we conclude that this cannot be achieved. This helpfulness and this cooperation cannot be achieved. This is the kind of conclusion humankind has reached.
हम कुछ सही कर ही नहीं सकते, इस जगह में
That we cannot do anything right. We have reached this conclusion.
तब गुरमुटिया करके तो बैठ गया। हम कुछ सही कर ही नहीं सकते, इस जगह में तब गुरमुटिया करके तो बैठ गया। सही को कर ही नहीं सकता। दूसरे विधि से मनुष्य जो है ना दुखड़ा को भोगने के लिए पैदा हुआ है, दूसरे और भी कुछ खाते हैं, ऐसा भी कुछ खाते।
So we've concluded that we cannot do anything right. This is the conclusion humankind has adopted and held on to. And on the other hand, that we have emerged to produce unhappiness. This is another sort of conclusion that we have come up with.
खाते हैं तो इसको क्या किया जाए? भांति भांति से कहने वाले बातों के लिए तो अपन कुछ नहीं कर सकते, किंतु ये बात सही है, व्यवस्था को हम चाहते हैं, व्यवस्था कैसा संपादित हो सकता है, सर्वसुलभ हो सकता है, लोकव्यापी हो सकता है, उसके लिए ये सुझाव है।
So what can we do about this? What does bhanti bhanti mean? Do you know anyone? Bhanti bhanti se.
Want to play it again?
He says bhanti bhanti से कहने वाली चीज को तो कुछ कह नहीं सकते. I've heard this phrase, bhanti, bhanti, but I don't know what it
I've
means.
heard it actually. Wait, I'll look it up.
Oh. So yeah, he's saying that we can't say anything about things that are said in a bhanti, bhanti way. But we can observe that we do desire resolution, we do desire order.
हो सकता है, लोकव्यापी तो हो सकता है। ये बात सही है, व्यवस्था को हम चाहते हैं, व्यवस्था कैसा संपादित हो सकता है, सर्वसुलभ हो सकता है, लोकव्यापी तो हो सकता है, उसके लिए ये सुझाव है।
So what all people say bhanti bhanti, that is not something I can respond to, but this much can be said that we do desire order. And then how order can be achieved, how systems can be lived out, this is a proposal for that. Bhanti bhanti in a variety of ways. Oh, okay. So I guess people have come up with a variety of conclusions, that sort of thing. I guess this
must be.
अलग-अलग तरीकों से.
I guess this connects to the kinds of huge variety of wrong conclusions that we can come up with. Like he says, no, there can be infinite number of incorrect answers, but there is only one correct answer. So here he's saying, see, we have come up with all sorts of conclusions, but one thing is for certain, that we all universally do desire resolution, we do desire order. So this proposal is a proposal for how to achieve that order, how to manifest it in our living.
इस सुझाव के संबंध में भी मनुष्य ही इसका भागीदार है, गधा घोड़ा कुत्ता बिल्ली नहीं है, न यंत्र है, मनुष्य ही इसका भागीदार है.
And regarding this proposal as well, it is only human beings that are participants in it. Donkeys, horses, dogs, cats, these are not participants in the solution. It is only human beings that are participants in this proposal for orderliness.
दूसरा कोई हो ही नहीं सकता, न यंत्र हो सकता, न कुत्ता बिल्ली हो सकता.
There can be no other participant. Neither can it be some machine, nor can it be dogs or cats.
तो
it may have sounded funny at one point, but these days it becomes relevant when we start thinking about super AIs and all that sort of imagination. That it is relevant to state it clearly that this is not something meant for machines or animals.
मनुष्य को भागीदारी के लिए मनुष्य को समझदार होना ही पड़ेगी. जिस समझदारी से हम जैसा समझदारी से हम आज जी रहे हैं, उससे तो हम व्यवस्था में जी नहीं पाएंगे.
And in order for humans to participate in it, they have to become knowledgeable, because the extent of knowledge that we are living with today, that cannot lead to orderliness. That much is insufficient for living with orderliness.
समझदारी से हम आज जी रहे हैं, उससे तो हम व्यवस्था में जी नहीं पाएंगे. ये तो बात सच्चाई. इस आधार पर पुनः हम उसी क्रम में चलते हैं, सार्वभौम व्यवस्था.
So that much is a fact. And on this basis, we will move on to the topic of a universal order.
सार्वभौम व्यवस्था ही है मानव धर्म.
So, universal order itself is the human dharma.
मनुष्य अपने में मानवतापूर्ण आचरण को हर आयाम कोण दिशा परिप्रेक्ष्य में प्रमाणित करना ही व्यवस्था है.
So, order is nothing but human beings evidencing themselves in all dimensions, in all facets of living, in evidencing their resolution in all facets and dimensions of living.
हर आयाम कोण दिशा परिप्रेक्ष्य में व्यवस्था ही है मानव धर्म. मनुष्य अपने में मानवतापूर्ण आचरण को हर आयाम कोण दिशा परिप्रेक्ष्य में प्रमाणित करना ही व्यवस्था है.
So humans evidencing humane conduct in all directions, in all angles and dimensions, that itself is a universal orderliness.
मानव अपने मानवतापूर्ण आचरण को संपूर्ण आयाम कोण दिशा परिप्रेक्ष्य में प्रमाणित करना ही व्यवस्था है.
So human beings presenting the evidence of their human conduct in all directions, all angles and dimensions is itself order.
ये इसी से जो मनुष्य को समाधान, समृद्धि, अभय, सह-अस्तित्व अपने आप में फलवती होती है.
And it is through this that humans naturally achieve resolution, prosperity, fearlessness and confidence.
इन्हीं फलों के लिए मानव चिरकाल से तृष्णा.
So it is through this evidencing of humane conduct in all dimensions that humans naturally reap the fruit, that is resolution, prosperity, fearlessness and coexistence.
में फलवती होती है. इन्हीं फलों के लिए मानव चिरकाल से तृषित है, व्यथित है और प्रतीक्षित है.
So it is for these very fruits that humankind has been concerned or what?
के लिए मानव चिरकाल से तृषित है, व्यथित है और प्रतीक्षित है.
That humans have been striving for, thirsting after, and waiting for it since time immemorial. These fruits that are resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence.
इस बात को हमें स्वीकारने की आवश्यकता है. उस पर हम शोध करने की आवश्यकता है. अपने प्रवृत्तियों को सटीकता के साथ उपयोगी बनाने की आवश्यकता है.
So this is something we need to examine, research.
अपने प्रवृत्तियों को उस पर हम शोध करने की आवश्यकता है. अपने प्रवृत्तियों को सटीकता के साथ उपयोगी बनाने की आवश्यकता है.
This is something we need to examine and study with exactness, and also to align our tendencies with. So if we find that it is true that humans have been awaiting resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence since time immemorial, then it makes sense that we need to align our tendencies towards achieving it. That's what he's saying.
अभी जो उपयोगी बनाने की आवश्यकता को हम क्या मान लिया है, हमारे जो आवश्यकता को उपयोगी माना है.
So we need to align our tendencies to be useful for this end. Right now, what we have considered to be useful is that we've started to believe that to be useful is to be useful for whatever we have assumed to be our needs.
बाकी किसी का उपयोगी आवश्यकता को हम उपयोगी मानवे नहीं किया.
We do not consider anyone else's needs to be useful.
तभी तो एक आदमी दूसरे का शोषण करता है, एक परिवार दूसरे परिवार का शोषण करता है, एक समुदाय दूसरे समुदाय का शोषण करता है, एक देश दूसरे देश का शोषण करता है.
It is for this reason that one human being exploits another, that one family or community exploits another community, that one nation exploits another. Because we have considered our needs to be important and not that of others.
जो आपके हर दिन की रोजमर्रा कथा है, हर दिन हम सुनते ही हैं, ये देश उनको ऐसा बुद्धू बनाया.
Which is a daily tale that we come across. every day we hear of this story that this nation, let me just quote him.
हर दिन हम सुनते ही हैं, ये देश उनको ऐसा बुद्धू बनाया, ये देश उसको बनाया, ये परिवार ऐसा किया, ये आदमी ऐसा किया, ये सब तो हम हर दिन आए दिन पेपरों में पढ़ते ही हैं.
So on a daily basis, we hear stories of one nation duped another, one family did something to another, one group to another. These are things that are talked and written about that we come across daily in our papers.
देखते ही. तो इन सब गवाहियों के साथ हमको यही अंतिम निष्कर्ष मिलती है, मानव धर्म को और मानवतापूर्ण आचरण को हमको तुरंत पहचानने की आवश्यकता है.
So with all such testimonies, we
अंतिम निष्कर्ष मिलती है.
So with all such testimonies, the final conclusion that we receive is that we need to understand humane conduct.
इन सब गवाहियों के साथ हमको यही अंतिम निष्कर्ष मिलती है, मानव धर्म को और मानवतापूर्ण आचरण को हमको तुरंत पहचानने की आवश्यकता है.
So the final conclusion that we reach is that we need to immediately recognize human dharma and humane conduct. So that we shouldn't delay this.
और इसको जीवन में अपने शरीर यात्रा में इसको चरितार्थ करने के लिए निष्ठा जुड़ाना पड़ेगा, उसके लिए संपूर्ण साहसिकता को जोड़ना पड़ेगा.
And we must gather all our dedication to achieve this in our own this very life journey, to achieve and manifest, realize this in this very life journey, and to gather
निष्ठा जुड़ाना पड़ेगा, उसके लिए संपूर्ण साहसिकता को जोड़ना पड़ेगा.
And we must muster all our courage in order to do that.
ये मुख्य मुद्दा है, इसका नाम है संकल्प.
So this is the major issue, and this is called resolve.
संकल्प का क्या मतलब है? और जो निष्ठा जुड़ती है, हम जो प्रमाणित होने के लिए हम निष्ठा जोड़ लेते हैं अपने ताकत से, इसका नाम है संकल्प.
So what is resolve? All this dedication that we gather, when we choose to gather such dedication towards something, to achieve something, that is what we call resolve.
जोड़ लेते हैं अपने ताकत से.
When we use our powers to gather this dedication, that is called resolve.
का नाम है संकल्प. क्या निष्ठा? व्यवस्था में जीने के लिए निष्ठा, ठीक है, प्रामाणिकता को संप्रेषित करने के लिए, अभिव्यक्त करने के लिए निष्ठा.
So dedication for what? Dedication to live in orderliness and,
ठीक है, प्रामाणिकता को संप्रेषित करने के लिए, अभिव्यक्त करने के लिए निष्ठा.
and the dedication to communicate and express our evidence and authenticity. So dedication to both these things.
ये दो जगह में निष्ठा स्थापित होता है. तीसरा जगह में निरंतर हम न्यायप्रदायी क्षमता को निरंतर विनियोजित करते रहेंगे. न्याय के लिए हम जिएंगे, न्यायपूर्वक जिएंगे.
So dedication is required for both these things. And the third place that requires dedication is to live with justice. So living out justice is something for which we will continue to be dedicated.
करते रहेंगे, न्याय के लिए हम जिएंगे, न्यायपूर्वक जिएंगे, इसके निष्ठा.
So we will continue to live with justice. We will live out justice. Dedication towards that. So these are the 3 points. The first is to live in order. The second is to express your evidence to share your evidence, to communicate it. That is your authenticity. And the third, of course, is to live with justice, live justly.
इस ढंग से न्याय धर्म सत्य के प्रति निष्ठा होती है.
And in this way, we will have a dedication towards justice, dharma, as well as truth. So dedication towards justice is self-explanatory. That is, we are dedicated to living out justice. No matter what happens, I want to achieve justice. And justice here is living with values and relationship leading to mutual fulfillment, right? That was justice. Then the second point is dharma. Dharma itself is to live in orderliness, comprehensive resolution, or comprehensive universal order. So a dedication to live in that orderly way. And truth. Truth is about authenticity and evidence. So to express your authenticity and to communicate it, share it with others, that is a dedication towards truth.
और कहीं भी निष्ठा होता हुआ हमने तो देखा नहीं.
Now, for there to be dedication towards anything else is something I have not seen.
निष्ठा जो कुछ भी इसके बदले में देखा जाता है, हम ध्यान, पूजा, अर्चना, प्रार्थना, इसमें निष्ठा के बारे में हमने गुजरा है.
All the other sort of dedication that we have seen towards things other than these three, that is, we've heard about meditation, worship, devotion, and things like that.
इन गुजरने में हम जो अपेक्षा रखते हैं वो बहुत मायने रखता है. कई के लिए हम पूजा करते हैं, पाठ करते हैं, स्तुति करते हैं, ध्यान करते हैं, योग करते हैं, जप करते हैं, जो कुछ भी करते हैं, ये कुल मिलाकर के उसका आवश्यकता हम कई के लिए कर रहे हैं, ये बहुत बड़ी मायने रखता है.
So what do we what are we dedicated towards all of these things for? That holds a lot of significance. So all this worship, devotion, meditation, and all of these things, the meditations and all of these things that we may be dedicated towards, it is very significant why we are dedicated towards those.
वही मुख्य मुद्दा है.
That is the major issue.
जिस बात के लिए हम ये सब करते हैं उसी को वो बुलंद करता है.
Whatever it is that we do all of these for is what gets reinforced.
उसी को वो बृहद बना देता है. उसी को वह ज्यादा से ज्यादा अच्छे ढंग से पाने की, खोने की स्थिति पैदा कर लेता है.
That is what it intensifies. That is what it magnifies and increases the possibility of achieving it, or losing it, if that is what we want.
ज्यादा से ज्यादा अच्छे ढंग से पाने की, खोने की स्थिति पैदा कर लेता है. ये देखा गया है.
That has been seen.
अब इसके बाद यदि कोई चीज होता है तीव्र जिज्ञासा. तीव्र जिज्ञासा के बारे में यही कहा गया है, स्वर्ग और मोक्ष.
And if there is anything besides that, then that is called an intense curiosity. Curiosity is a very light word for jigyasa. Jigyasa is more like a thirst for knowledge. Curiosity can be just a superficial light thing, but so an intense thirst for knowledge. This thirst for knowledge, that has been said that is regarding heaven and liberation.
तीव्र जिज्ञासा के बारे में यही कहा गया है, स्वर्ग और मोक्ष. स्वर्ग के लिए यदि हमारा तीव्र जिज्ञासा होता है, उसके लिए भी यही सब कृत्यों को किया जाता है.
So if we have an intense thirst for knowledge regarding heaven, then for that also it is prescribed that we do all of these acts of worship, meditation, etc., etc.
इसी को शुभ कार्य हम अनादिकाल से आदर्शवादी विधि से मानते ही आए हैं.
It is these that are considered to be good acts, that have been considered to be good acts since time immemorial, in the idealistic perspective.
अभी भी लोक प्रचलन में इसकी स्वीकृति भी है, इसका सम्मान भी है, और इससे कई लोगों को राहत मिलता भी है।
And even today, even in contemporary society, we find that it is still respected, it is still accepted, and a lot of people also find relief through this.
इसमें हमारा कोई शंका नहीं है।
In this, I have no doubts.
तो तात्कालिक राहत मिलने मात्र से हम व्यवस्था में जी गए, ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं।
So, just by finding some momentary or immediate relief, it is not that we have managed to live in orderliness.
व्यक्ति को अथवा परिवार को या कुछ लोगों को यदि राहत भी मिल गई, वो व्यवस्था में जी गए, ऐसा कोई प्रमाणित हुआ नहीं।
So, be it an individual, be it a family, or more, if they have found some sort of relief through these activities, it is not that they have lived in order, in orderliness.
इसीलिए तो हमको ऐसे चीजों पर कोई अविश्वास नहीं है, उसकी एक सीमा है, वो सीमा तक ही वो प्रभावशाली है।
And therefore, it is not that I have no confidence in such activities. They have a certain limit. They are only effective to that limit. So here, this is part of the game that Sendel also created, the difference between relief and resolution. Living in orderliness is what he's calling resolution. And he's saying we have the potential to be dedicated towards that, because that has been, this living in orderliness has been a need for humankind universally since forever, since we have emerged on the planet. But up till now, a lot of the discourse on dedication, at least from the idealistic perspective, has been on dedication towards, praying, worshipping, devotion, austerity, meditation, and things like that. And these things he divided it into two parts. Either you do these to achieve something, or you do this out of some thirst for knowledge. So if you're dedicated to doing these, it is what you are wanting to get out of it that is significant. So if you want to achieve something, and that is why you're doing all these practices, then sure, it does increase the likelihood. It does intensify that thirst in you, that desire in you, and it does increase the likelihood that you may achieve it. And secondly, he said, if you're doing it out of some sort of thirst for knowledge, and that thirst is usually about heaven or liberation, then now you do find some relief out of this, but you are not able to live in an orderly way. So he's saying the limits of a dedication done in this way, through dedication in the form of devotion, has its limits. He's saying it's not that I don't believe in it. It's not that I don't understand. And actually, he doesn't say believe. It's not that I don't have confidence in this process. He's saying it is effective to a certain limit. It is effective in providing relief. So he's not negating it completely. So I think that's a really important thing to pay attention to, because I think often, even in studying Madhya's darshan, a lot of it turns into, because culturally we have a habit to fall into devotion. So a lot of it turns into a sort of devotion activity. And now even that provides some sort of relief, because in this world full of, our society and world today is full of uncertainty and a lot of chaos. So having something to be devoted towards, which seems meaningful and seems a bit logical also, it feels much better than not having it. But again, this is just drawing attention to the fact that that is devotion, and devotion is relieving. Because of that devotion, we may even be able to achieve certain things, we may be able to, bring a lot of people together, set up something. But if it's happening through devotion and not through understanding, not through orderliness, it will still have its limits. So I think that this is quite a significant point. And of course, here devotion means things like praying and meditating and all these sorts of things, which is basically activities other than this activity of understanding for ourselves.
और उसके आगे की मोक्ष के बारे में जो कुछ भी कामना होती है, मोक्ष के बारे में आपको बता ही दिया। अंतिम मंजिल समाधि है। समाधि के बाद मनुष्य अपने उपयोगिता को पूरा का पूरा समाप्त किया रहता है और ना तो हम कुछ पाने की बात रहती नहीं है।
So this was about a thirst of knowledge for heaven. But if there is, he's saying, if there is anything beyond that, if there is a thirst for knowledge for, say, anything beyond heaven, which can only be liberation or moksha, then that I have already discussed. This liberation reaches the point of samadhi, in which we are left with no, what does he say?
किया रहता है और के बाद मनुष्य अपने उपयोगिता बता ही दिया। अंतिम मंजिल समाधि है। समाधि के बाद मनुष्य अपने उपयोगिता को पूरा का पूरा समाप्त किया रहता है।
So this I've already informed you. The ultimate destination for that sort of liberation is samadhi, and after samadhi, human beings completely lose all their sense of utility and purpose.
समाधि के बाद मनुष्य अपने उपयोगिता को पूरा का पूरा समाप्त किया रहता है और ना तो हम कुछ पाने की बात रहती नहीं है, ना कुछ मैंने खोने की बात रहती है। इस स्थिति में हम सुख दुख से परे की स्थिति में मान लेते हैं।
So in that state, that the sense of one's own utility comes to an end. There is nothing about wanting to achieve something or wanting to lose something. And in that sort of state, that is what we are calling beyond happiness or sadness.
हम उसको भी प्रमाणित करना बनता नहीं।
And that is what we call samadhi, and that is also something that cannot be evidenced.
इस स्थिति में समाधि का प्रयोजन समझ में आता है।
In this way, we can understand the purpose of samadhi. I think what he needs to say is that is how we can place samadhi. Samadhi has been talked about in different ways, but this is the way it can be understood. This is the point that samadhi is something that is beyond happiness and sadness.
इस क्रम में हम जीते हुए अंत में ये निष्कर्ष में आते हैं, समाधि स्थिति से भी हमको कोई माने व्यवस्था उपजती नहीं है।
So living this way, we can reach this conclusion that even through samadhi, even by this method of samadhi, we cannot live in order.
भक्ति विधि से भी सार्वभौम कोई व्यवस्था उपजती नहीं है। संग्रह सुविधा विधि से भी कोई सार्वभौम व्यवस्था उपजती नहीं है।
Even the way of devotion leads to no orderliness, and the way of resource accumulation also does not lead to orderliness. So samadhi doesn't lead to orderliness, devotion doesn't lead to orderliness, and resource accumulation doesn't lead to orderliness. So idealism, the way of idealism is summarized as that of detachment and devotion. So samadhi is the route that people who choose to go by detachment take, and devotion is the path that everyone else who believes in idealism takes. Then materialism, the agenda in materialism is of course resource accumulation, and that also leads to does not lead to orderliness.
इस निष्कर्ष पर अपन आ चुके हैं।
So we have already arrived at this conclusion.
तो ये आ चुके हैं, तो अब कैसा किया जाए? तो मनुष्य कैसा जिए जाए?
So if we've arrived at this conclusion, so now what should we do? How should humans live then?
उसका उपाय यही है, समझदारी पूर्वक समाधान समृद्धि अभय सहअस्तित्व पूर्वक जीने की कला को विकसित किया जाए।
So the answer to that is simply that we must develop the art of living with resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence through our understanding.
यही मानवीयतापूर्ण जीने की कला का स्वरूप बन सकता है।
because it is only this that can become the form of humane living. Humane living can only take on the form of living with resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence.
इसमें हम जी के देखा हूं, ये सार्थक है.
So this is something that I have tried living, and that has proved meaningful. When he says proved meaningful, he means that it has been successful. It is a way of using language that I find quite nice and something that we don't usually do. But this has been meaningful means that I have attained some meaning from it. So it means that I have succeeded in trying it out.
हाँ.
Okay, since this is starting a new section, anything that anyone would like to talk about or ask about before that?
Got it.
So he was basically just saying that we need to, if we recognize that living in order is a universal human need, then we need to muster the resolve that and the courage to do that in this very lifetime, he says. Interestingly, he points that out because it's our need right now. So, and that we have employed our ability, our power of resolve for lots of things before this, but those at best can only provide relief, not resolution.
Also, it was interesting when he pointed out that every time there's a resolution to be taken or there's a step towards humanly order, the resistance is 1,000 times more.
Yeah, that was quite interesting actually.
Rather than every sensation thing which triggers something in you, you're just taking the first step either for craving or aversion. But every time it's a human order, for example, just like the game you said, right? When it's supposed to take things which benefits everyone, but just the triggers or sensations of winning or losing just makes you to take the easy way out every time.
Yeah. I was imagining something like, if there's some plan, something fun we want to do together, and everyone's like, oh, let's do this, let's do this. There's very little deliberation on should we do it or not. If everyone feels excited, we just go ahead and do it. But if it's something really meaningful or something, something for welfare or long-term well-being, then we think and rethink and consider and reconsider a whole lot. And by that time, the conducive situation, the opportunity passes by. And so we're not able to achieve it.
Exactly. When you say the word now, you said the meaningful word is such a nice way to put it. One, if at all you are able to ask, is this meaningful? Then you have so many answers, placements, right?
Yeah.
That was quite, you're right. That was a very hard hitting point. Like, we don't have to question something, that there is a right time also for something. Actually, that was what really struck me in that point, that there is a right time to do something. And if the situation is conducive, we should be able to recognize that and see that any action that would fit that situation would be limited to that particular situation. If the situation changes, then that action will not be as effective as it is for that moment.
Exactly. I think even this last 2 minutes of conversation makes so much sense. It's just like a 7-day Vidya or Jeevan Vidya basic workshop. Just get back everything which you have learned. And even in today's life, it's just you can able to see what flows are going on, where you can put a full stop right away just by asking, is this meaningful or not? And how your triggers are happening currently. It's just,
Yeah.
heavy for heart.
Also, it seems so much simpler, right? If everyone is working towards like living in a resolved way, then it would all be the same direction, and because otherwise all the other things which we choose based on are not necessarily going to be aligned. I might want this, you might want that. I might feel this sensation, you might prefer that sensation. So when we try and decide based on those, we are always going to be at odds with each other. And it seems so simple and obvious also that actually if we all work towards resolution, then we will be in harmony with each other and go in the same direction, more smoothly. So
Yeah, that is true. But I think the problem is until we understand what resolution or what orderliness is, that is the biggest hiccup. Because if, say, I believe that harmony is when I get to do what I want at any moment and you get to do what you want at any moment. But my wants are all chaotic and so are yours. Or maybe not all chaotic, but chaotic to some extent. Then it becomes a bit difficult to find harmony, and then we may feel that actually resolution is not something that we can agree on because my resolution is different from your resolution. We can have all these sorts of difficulties until
yeah,
within ourselves we can kind of regulate what our understanding of our needs is. And basically where our needs, it means not just mine but all of our common shared fulfilling points of fulfillment.
Yeah, I guess the clarity of needs and wants has to be there between all your relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, and some
yeah,
maybe some experience of it also, because in theory it may not be very convincing that living in happy relationships would be more uh, fulfilling than ever wanting to, I don't know, go out and party or something, or whatever the kind of relief you get from shopping or something like that, because we do rely on a lot of
excitement.
coping mechanisms and we don't realize that coping mechanisms, we feel that they are our actual needs. So
Yeah, the underlying roots of these coping mechanisms are not even touched. It's just chasing those coping mechanisms. For someone, it might be travel as a thing,
yeah,
right? They're just
Yeah,
chasing, and whenever they're traveling, at the same time, they're again chasing to, they're not sure what they are supposed to do even while they're traveling. So, yeah, that peace within peace is somewhere missing, again, which comes from human order.
yeah, traveling, seeking new experiences, all of these. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, very simple if a little bit of understanding is given properly, that a smaller conversation also can get you so many experiences. Like
Yeah.
we were, energy doesn't never gets drawn if you're having a good conversation. So
Yeah, that's why I feel like with the theory, you also need to experience that sort of situation a few times to have some confidence that, oh, actually, even a harmonious, meaningful conversation with someone can feel fulfilling. And then I suddenly don't feel like watching a movie in my spare time, or suddenly then I don't feel like I crave certain foods that I thought I wouldn't be able to do without, or then I suddenly don't feel like traveling away from here to a new place if there is meaning conflict. So, as long as we have little bits of that experience also, that gives us confidence that, oh, this is something worth moving forward, moving towards.
correct. As you in the workshop also, when we understood that facilitator is much important. The content is important, but how is the expression coming out? How
Mm.
the conversations are coming out? Let's say I don't have enough knowledge of plantation, but you do have it. But if at all there is a resistance in me to taking it up, asking the basic questions, and that I feel that gap is very big. I don't even get my answers, and then I want to move to something else. But if
Mm.
I know the facilitator is good, she would accompany me in giving all the information and genuinely giving all the information to help the other person understand. So these smaller things in education plays a very important role.
Yeah, yeah. Like he was saying also, for a teacher, I can't remember actually if he was saying it here or if we were reading it somewhere else. He was saying basically the basic quality of a teacher is that they can produce evidence in their living, and it'll be evidence of justice. So that is, the right values are flowing, the value of acceptance and care and generosity and authenticity, transparency. If these values are there, then first that is one qualification, so their ability to live in justice, then their ability for dharma or resolution or order, so they have a whole clarity within themselves, which they can share. So anyone can ask from anywhere and then they can share it. They can present the solution to that. That is another qualification. And of course, the third qualification is the living with truth or authenticity, which is they're wanting to share that true, transparent, authentic knowledge and understanding.
Basically, they embody what they are living.
Yeah. So he said that is the minimum qualification of being a teacher. After that comes the skill of teaching, you know.
Okay.
I can't remember if it was in this very video earlier or somewhere else. Okay.
जय हो, मंगल हो, कल्याण। हाँ।
Okay. So he starts with this proclamation sort of thing, which means let there be victory, let there be well-being, let there be welfare.
हम इस बात पर पहुंच गए कि
The reason I translate the words is because he wouldn't just, it's not like a traditional saying with no meaning. If he was saying these words, he meant something very specific with that. So whenever he starts, he does say, often he says Jai Ho Mangalo Kalyano, which basically translates to let there be universal well-being. Let we human beings succeed in our eternal desire for universal well-being.
हम इस बात पर पहुंच गए कि हम जिए हैं, अर्थात मैं स्वयं जिया हूं, तो आप भी जी सकते हैं।
So now we have reached this point where I have lived this out, and therefore you can also live this out.
मैं समझता हूं हर व्यक्ति को जी करके प्रमाणित करना है। सार्थकता सबको वर है, सार्थकता सबको स्वीकार है, तो मानवीयतापूर्ण आचरण मानव परंपरा के लिए, मानव जाति के लिए ये स्वीकृत है।
So as I understand it, everyone has to evidence themselves through living, and meaningfulness is the boon of every individual. Meaningfulness is the desire of every individual. And so humane conduct is something that all of us need to.
मानव परंपरा के लिए, मानव जाति के लिए ये स्वीकृत है।
And therefore humane conduct is something which is acceptable to the human kind as well as the human tradition.
इसके पूर्व में जो हर इसका कारण भी बताया, मानव स्वीकार करने का आधार भी बताया कि अस्तित्व में हर एक इकाई का अपना त्वा सहित व्यवस्था ही होता है।
So before this, I also clarified the basis of humane conduct being acceptable to humankind, which is that in existence, every entity is an order with its own uniqueness.
मानव भी व्यवस्था में जीने के लिए इच्छुक है, इस आधार पर मानवत्व मानव को स्वीकृत रहता ही है।
And human beings are also desiring, are also amenable or are willing to live in order, and in that way humanness, so that uniqueness, the suffix of ness associated with anything, is that entity's uniqueness. So dogness is dogatva, or the uniqueness of the dog. Neem tree-ness is the uniqueness of the neem tree, neematva. Similarly, humanness is the uniqueness of human beings. So because all humans are willing to live in order, therefore humanness is acceptable to them, because humanness is to be living in universal orderliness.
इसमें हम प्रमाणित करना है, हमारा जागृति का प्रमाण है। इसमें हम प्रमाणित करना है, हमारा जागृति का प्रमाण है। मैं जब मानवीयतापूर्ण आचरण को मैं प्रमाणित करा,
Also, clarification, humanness also refers to humane conduct, because living with humaneness means living with humanity. Humanity means humane conduct. So then he's saying, so evidencing this humaneness itself is the evidence of our awakening. So evidencing humaneness is the evidence of any sort of awakening. That means the evidence that we have awakened will be in the fact that we are living out humane conduct. That is the only evidence that anyone is awakened.
इसमें हम प्रमाणित करना है, हमारा जागृति का प्रमाण है। मैं जब मानवीयतापूर्ण आचरण को मैं प्रमाणित करा, उसी समय में हमको ये बात पर यकीन हुआ और मानवीयता हमारा स्वत्व है, हमारा ही उपज है, हमारा जीवन का वैभव है, हमारा स्वयं का वैभव है। इस प्रकार से हमको अपने आप में बोध हुआ।
So when I evidenced humane conduct, oh wait, it's a lot of stuff and we've already passed 4. I just realized in our conversation we'd already reached our time. So maybe we'll do this again tomorrow, because anyway it's quite weighty topic. Okay, anything before that?
Good.
Manju ji?
Rishabh, more or less, I keep feeling you have heard this before.
More or less, you keep feeling what is before?
Now, as we're going forward in the thing, it looks like it's been said before, you know?
Yeah. Of course, everything is basically getting consolidated into these 3 points of justice.
I wish it was like a chapter wise, like this is this topic, this is this. But it's not like that. It's like everything go wrong, like it's all over the place. Like same topic comes here also, it comes there also, then something new and something old, and very hard to remember anything.
Actually, what it is like is this is the main core, the philosophy at the center, and you
Yeah.
can any thread and reach it. So he starts out with one thread, and when you keep following it, it again reaches that. You take up another thread, and it reaches that, another thread, and it reaches the same thing. So in that way, you can start when you start seeing that this is how it's functioning, it starts to make sense to you that, oh, everything is ending up there only. No matter what you pick up, it all reaches the same thing, that existence is coexistence. And existence being coexistence only translates to that existence is, because coexistence means togetherness. And togetherness means that everything has to be orderly. That means everything has to be working together in a definite manner, because if there is no definiteness, then we won't be able to work together with one another. We have to recognize each other, and recognition is on the basis of definiteness. And then in human beings, that translates to living with values, with justice. That is the definiteness for human beings. So similarly, all of these patterns, they all, we start with one thing and they all connect to the same coexistence, the truth that everything is together. That's why it seems like it keeps repeating. That's what yesterday also Anisha Masi was saying, no? When she used to start reading the book, it's happened with all of us. We used to keep, we're reading it one sentence by one sentence, one anubhuti by one anubhuti, because each anubhuti seems so complicated. And so it feels like, array, this same thing was mentioned here also. Why is it being mentioned again? That existence is coexistence, that space and matter are undividable. But actually, over here, its relevance of stating it here is different from its relevance of stating it there. Here, it's the conclusion of this story. There, it was the conclusion of that story. But the conclusion will always be the same.
True. Okay.
Can you just repeat what were the 3 things you said, which boils down to all these 3 things? Justice, or
order,
Values.
So justice is values, order is dharma, and truth is coexistence. So justice, order, and truth. Justice, dharma, and truth. Often for English, sometimes I just translate dharma to order, because at least that's an English word. Yeah.
Drishta, say it again. Justice is
Justice is living with values,
values.
values and mutual fulfillment. Actually, justice is that 4-point thing: relationships, values, evaluation, and mutual fulfillment. That is justice. Then dharma is
Relationship. Okay, let me write it down.
okay.
Relationship. Yeah. So you said justice is relationship.
Recognizing the relationship, then living out its inherent values,
Okay.
then mutually evaluating whether these values have been lived out or not.
Okay.
And based on that, mutual fulfillment. So that is the final point of justice: mutual fulfillment.
Okay.
So that is
That is
justice.
justice. Then 2.
Then 2 is dharma.
And what is the Hindi word for justice? Nyay.
Nyay.
Hmm.
Nyay, dharma, satya.
Nyay. Okay. Nyay. Dharma is truth.
No, satya is truth. Dharma is that which cannot be separated. That it is the principle, it is the purpose of anything. So it is the ordering principle.
Dharma would be nature.
Actually, there's another word for nature that we call swabhav.
Okay.
I always
Okay,
thought that was like
that which
natural
cannot be
law or something.
separated.
It's not.
Sorry, I couldn't hear either of you.
Dharma is that which cannot be separated. And what's the English word for dharma you're using?
Actually, in the translation, we've just kept it as dharma, like you were also suggesting. We can call it like ordering principle. We also can call it morality in one way. But morality, it works only in the context of human beings, because it is only in human beings where we have a choice. And morality of right and wrong only comes with choice. Like animals have no option but to live out their morality or what is right for them.
That is their dharma.
That is their dharma. So, what they do is moral for them, because that is for them, that is the right thing to be doing. So that is one word I've considered using: morality. Actually, religion also works, like we had discussed
But then
that.
That'll take you somewhere else.
Yeah, it can get confusing.
Swabhav dharma, I guess very close, because aag ka dharma.
Oh, you mean it could be called swabhavik?
Swabhav is something different. Dharma is even more fundamental. So we will go into that. So every entity can be understood at the level of its form. You can understand the form of some entity. You can understand its properties or its qualities. Then you can understand its nature or swabhav. And at the most fundamental level, you can understand its dharma. So aag ka dharma jalna would not apply actually over here. So dharma gets very specifically classified, and there are only 4 dharmas in existence, 4 ordering principles based, and therefore we say since there are only 4 ordering principles, therefore there are only 4 orders in nature. There's the material order. The ordering principle or dharma of material order is existence. That's it. It just exists. It can never not exist. So that is something that cannot be taken away from it. Then the ordering principle of the plant order is nourishment, pushti. And then the ordering principle of the animal order is the hope to live. And the ordering principle of the human order is happiness or resolution, which is comprehensive resolution, which itself is living in universal order. So that is dharma.
Living in order. Okay.
Yeah.
That is 2. Then 3.
3 is Satya or truth. So the ultimate truth, ultimate is funny. The truth is coexistence. Like Baba was saying, there is no ultimate or before or after. Truth is coexistence. That is what existence is. That there is space and there is matter and there is a coexistence of the two. And that means that there is therefore a coexistence of everything. Everything is together. And of course, when here we say together, it means we are harmoniously together. Existence is in harmonious coexistence. That is the truth of the world, of the universe, of existence.
So you're saying truth is like space and there's matter and they're existing simultaneously, harmoniously and all.
Yeah.
So what about humans? Where do humans come in? Matter. We are matter.
We are, everything is space and matter. Nothing is just matter, nothing is just space.
Achha.
I mean, just space is there actually, just matter is not there. Because all matter is as it is because it is saturated in space. Matter is energized by space, matter is regulated by space, matter is directed by space, thanks to space, not because space is doing anything, because it is because matter is saturated in completeness, it is saturated in complete, therefore it is inspired towards completeness. Therefore, any atom even, it's not just matter, it is matter saturated in space.
So you're calling space completeness?
No, space is called complete. It is also basically one of the names given to it is also Purn. Because it's complete in the state that it is. There is never going to be any change in it. So therefore, it is a complete state of being. And because we are saturated, all matter is saturated in that complete, capital C, complete thing. Therefore, we are directed towards completeness. Now, completeness is a property of being. So, we will embody completeness. And how that is embodied is through stability. So all of existence is trying to achieve completeness by trying to achieve stability in each stage. And so we have evolved in our, all of existence has evolved in greater and greater and greater stability.
So I'll leave. Thank you for the session.
Okay, so anything else before we all end?
I'm also fine now. I got this. This was very helpful. This was very helpful.
Okay.
Maybe it's been said several times before, but this time I got it in a certain way.
Yeah, it'll keep requiring iteration again and again. We all go through.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, bye.
Thank you, Grishta. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.